The second mission in the new Hitman game got me thinking about information, how we reveal it to the player, and why. The developers have added a new mechanic this time around, called opportunities. There's a conversation going on between these two engineers about a plan to transport my target in a dangerous fighter jet. If I listen in, it exposes an opportunity, which is like a tiny mission that walks me through the process of setting up a particular type of kill. Hitman games have always had neat setups for interesting kills scattered around the world. The new game is different because it doesn't just place them and mark them, it actually walks you through how to use them. Now I'm actually going to switch to a different opportunity here. I need a bottle of vodka so I can get my target into a room by himself. You'll see what I mean in a minute. The opportunity marks the location of the vodka so I can plan my route to get there. This gives me access to a ton of information. I'm sure some players would feel like this is cheap, like it isn't challenging enough, and if they want to ignore this feature and explore the world without any guidance, they're totally free to do that. But there's something that good mystery writers will tell you. Creating a mystery isn't about withholding information. It's about giving your audience information. Giving them the right information to get their mind working, creating a sense that they almost understand everything, and they're only missing one last piece. If you give them nothing, then the story isn't interesting, at least not as a mystery. Giving your audience absolutely nothing to go on is the easiest thing in the world, but it's also dull. By the time you reveal the answers, most of them have stopped reading. You want them thinking ahead of you, feeling like they're outsmarting you, and that means giving them as much information as you possibly can, and stopping just shy of the final answer. Video games are very similar to mysteries this way. In Hitman, I can read minds and see through walls, which allows me to know exactly when and where enemies are coming after me. They didn't have to give me that ability. These enemies could be alerted silently, walk in on me, take me completely by surprise. That would certainly make the game more difficult, but it would also feel like random guesswork, like a bad mystery novel. By giving me every scrap of information, they turned this from a guessing game into a cat and mouse game, which is much more satisfying for me to play. I'm thinking ahead of the guards, outsmarting them, and that feels really good. Now, I'm not saying you need to lay out all the information for your audience up front. That would just be confusing. You can't really absorb information anyway till it has meaning for you, until you want it. Information that feels useless just washes through your brain, leaving nothing behind. So what you need to do is give your player tools that allow them to find the information they want. Invisible ink is a great example of this. You have immense power to gather information, but it all comes with cost and risk. Examining a guard costs precious time that could have been spent on something else, and the clock is always ticking. So you only go after the information you care about. Then that information sticks in your head, and you use it to assemble a deeply complex mental model of what's going on in the world, so you can thread your way through it undetected. My first step in any Hitman mission is to explore. Try on uniforms, see what doors they open, chase down opportunities, learn my target's schedule and the patrols of the guards. Anything I want to know, I can find, if I have the patience to watch before I strike. From playing this over and over, I know there's a tiny window of time here when everyone's out of the room. I have a few moments to solve my target's chess problem, which will break him out of his normal routine. If I leave him some vodka, he'll drink it to celebrate his own brilliance. And then if I poison the right glass, he'll get violently ill and make a run for the bathroom, where he'll be completely alone behind closed doors. The entire time I have the ability to watch him through the walls and see when he's coming back. That moment when he starts heading back into the room can be really intense. And that's another key way we use information, to create tension. When something bad happens in a game, or in any story, and it comes completely out of the blue, it's basically a jump scare. It has a brief effect on you, but it ends up feeling cheap. You can see this in some of the deaths in the later seasons of 24. Rather than building up to an important death, they would just kill a character abruptly for shock value. It was effective at surprising the audience, but it wasn't a satisfying experience. The impact of the shock would wear off quickly and leave you feeling empty afterwards, because there was no tension. Real tension comes from knowing something bad might happen. You can see it coming, but you're not sure you're going to be able to survive it. An artist can build on that feeling for a long time and deepen it until it has a real impact on you. The bad thing doesn't even need to happen most of the time. You just have to know that it might. Nearly all art is about creating and resolving tension in your mind. Stories do it, music does it, dance does it. Tension comes from you understanding that something is wrong or risky or uncertain. And then when the artist resolves that tension, you feel this rush of relief, excitement, or horror. Many artists misunderstand how this works. They think that final rush is all about how shocking, how epic, or how surprising the resolution is. But they're wrong. The resolution doesn't need to be big and bombastic. It can be incredibly subdued as long as the tension that led to it is strong and the audience is invested in the outcome. In other words, the power of the resolution is determined by the tension that led to it, and tension depends on information. One of the smartest moves they made in the movie Die Hard was making Hans Gruber a point-of-view character. You learn very quickly who he is, what he wants, and what he's capable of. He's not a shadowy threat waiting to be revealed at the end of the movie. He's almost a second protagonist. So when he meets John McClane in person, and John doesn't know who he is, the scene is incredibly intense. You know that the hero is trapped with the villain, but the hero doesn't know it yet. You see exactly what's going on. The only information you're missing is what will happen next. You're on the edge of your seat. Imagine if the filmmakers had held back Hans's identity. What if you really thought he was a hostage, and you were just as ignorant as John? Then meeting him would feel like nothing, and when Hans was suddenly revealed to be the villain, you might be surprised, but it would feel cheap and empty. Of course you were surprised. The filmmakers kept you in the dark. There's nothing meaningful about it. A lot of modern movies make this mistake, waiting until very late to reveal the villain and their evil plan. The heroes spend most of the story bouncing from one scanty clue to the next, never really understanding what's going on. This is what makes the action feel bombastic but empty. When there's no information, there are no stakes, and there can't be any tension. So when I see a game like Hitman offering information so freely to the player, it comes as a welcome relief. In this game, the action is intense specifically because you know exactly what is going on. Every piece of information is in your hands except for one, the outcome. So when that outcome finally arrives, it can be really, really satisfying. Thank you for being here. Oh, hey, you're still here. I hope you liked the video. I'm planning on making more of these, so if you want to see them, you can always subscribe, or you can check out some of the other stuff I've done before, which is basically one other video like this one, and then the extra play I did with Daniel Floyd. But that one's about invisible ink, so if you liked what you saw in this video, go check that one out. It's a really cool game.